Today's main entree on the menu is the Canon EOS 60D. This camera is revamped from last year's 50D by including a fold-out vari-angle LCD. It pumps the megapixels up to 18. It has full 1080p HD video at 30 frames a second, but it also has fierce competition with the Nikon D7000. Is the EOS 60D equipped enough to trounce the D7000? Let's find out in this review. When you compare the 60D to last year's 50D, you'll notice that the back is radically redesigned, and that's to accommodate the vari-angle fold-out LCD with a 1,040,000 pixel display. This is a better display than last year. We love the LCD for different angles, shooting angles, and also all of the buttons and controls have been migrated to the right of the LCD. We also have an 8-way multi-directional pad embedded in the middle of the spinning control dial, which replaces the joystick on the 50D from last year. Buttons are intuitive, they're easy to use, and we really like the secondary control dial located on top as opposed to being in front of the shutter button, because it's a lot easier to reach. The 60D also updates to the standard SD card slot versus last year's CF card slot, so it's a lot more versatile when it comes to memory. This camera has a pop-up flash, hot shoe, and mic jack, so you can boost the quality of your video recording sound. And there are a lot of quick function buttons located on the 60D. Battery life on the 60D was actually very impressive, better than most cameras in its class. One great thing about the 60D is that it's compatible with Canon's full line of EF and EFS lenses. We had the pleasure of shooting with the EFS 18 to 135mm lens with image stabilization. The overall build quality of the 60D was a little amateurish, especially when compared to the D7000, but overall it's one of the easiest cameras to use. The Canon EOS 60D is faster. It has a 0.1 second startup time, and it captures 5.3 frames per second at up to 16 raw images. Surrounding the 60D's 9.AF system is a 63-zone dual-layer sensor, and this actually measures color and adjusts exposure accordingly to prevent blown highlights, and that's something that we actually saw an improvement in with this camera. We also have high-speed X-Sync, which allows for up to 1/250th of a second shutter speed for high-speed flash synchronization in burst mode. When it came to menu navigation, it appeared that the Nikon D7000 was faster, especially in playback when we scrolled through images. Canon also gave us some great tools in video mode. We have manual exposure, and we also have the ability to adjust the mic levels via a decibel meter, stereo sound decibel meter. Unfortunately, autofocus in video mode was much better on the D7000, and that's because Canon requires you to hold the shutter button down halfway during shooting, which amounts to jerky, loud mechanical sounds and very slow focusing, while the D7000 does it automatically. So that is one major thing to consider. Using the viewfinder, which offers a 96% field of view, the autofocus system was excellent. Very quick, very accurate. Manual controls are really nothing out of the ordinary. For shutter speed, we have a 1/8000th of a second to 30-second range. We have a Kelvin meter as well as custom white balance, and we have an ISO range of 100 to 12,800. The EOS 60D has a number of scene modes that can be applied while shooting, as well as creative effects that can be applied in post. That includes soft focus, miniature, grainy black and white. Raw processing can even be done in playback mode, and videos can be trimmed as well. A few other neat tricks on this camera. We have Creative Auto, which allows us to control background blur and color tonality. And this camera has a horizontal digital meter, so it measures when the camera is horizontal to the ground. This is a fairly well-stocked camera for someone just busting into photography as a serious hobby, but we feel that the Nikon D7000 has more when it comes to features. For 2010, Canon went big and they boosted the megapixel count on the APS-C size CMOS sensor to 18 megapixels. And it makes the Canon EOS 60D the largest megapixel mid-level DSLR in its neighborhood. We shot side by side with the Nikon D7000. One constant between the Nikon and Canon battles that Canon colors are always warmer, while Nikon colors are more realistic, more gritty. However, we discovered some magenta fringing on highlighted edges with the Canon EOS 60D, while the Nikon D7000 did not exhibit anything of the sort in any shooting environment. We attained more clarity from the D7000 and felt more comfortable with it at higher ISO settings. Noise management with both cameras at high ISOs is very good, but the edge goes to the Nikon D7000. Now in video mode, the 60D offers full HD 1080p at 30 frames a second, and that tops the D7000's 24 frames a second at 1080p. So it definitely has the motion advantage. Video quality with the 60D is excellent, especially in bright light for static shots. But don't expect any 5D or 7D low light sensitivity with the 60D. You're still going to see a fair amount of noise, and it's still going to seem a bit amateurish if you're more within the professional echelon of photography. The biggest problem we had with the 60D in video mode was autofocus. We had to rely on the manual focus the entire time. So that's one thing to consider, while the Nikon D7000 has autofocus full time. Our final answer with the Canon EOS 60D, no bones about it, this is a fantastic DSLR for hobbyists, advanced hobbyists looking to break into photography. Its revamped architecture brings us SD card support and a flip-out vari-angle LCD with better screen resolution. We also have more intuitive buttons, excellent battery life, though the build quality is not anywhere near the Nikon D7000. We have a boost in megapixels, we have improved video mode. This camera is definitely a better camera than the EOS 50D. However, we don't think Canon saw this guy coming, the Nikon D7000, which pretty much rules this price range, especially after spending a lot of time with both cameras and shooting in various different environments. The D7000 is just pretty doggone hard to beat. So if you're a beginner, the 60D is a lot more user-friendly. You're probably going to steer toward the 60D. If you want it all and you're in this price range, the Nikon D7000 is the way to go. Either way, check them both out and go to our site to see all of our image samples with the 60D. The D7000 reviews coming up pretty soon. For InfoSync World, I'm Mike Perlman.